So the mission is simple. A new pair of pants to replace your favorite pair, which is worn out.
You're the last one. Complete the mission.
5 hours later. Seriously, 5 stores and 5 hours later, you have exactly 0 matches. What a colossal waste of time. Just like online dating, right? And what about shopping online? Wasn't that supposed to solve all our problems? Well, that shirt you bought looked good in the photos, but trying it on, the fit is horrible. They should have warned you the model in the picture was 6'2", 62 pounds. And now you're stuck with both the hidden restock and return fee. Nothing like lighting money on fire. Now, the strange thing about this is modern men, we have like 100 times more options than our grandfathers. Yet when we look at pictures of our grandfather, that man looked like a friggin' model. Seriously, just look at the guy. Grandpa was a friggin' stud. So what was his secret? What was the formula that enabled him to take less clothing and make it look amazing? Simply put, perfect fit is equal to awareness times knowledge times implementation. Gentlemen, if you can understand and master those 3 things, you can nail the fit of any outfit. Now, of course, being me, I like to complicate things. So if you want to get specific, I am going to add weight to each of the pieces of the formula. I do this because I want to stress that yes, awareness and knowledge are important, but if you don't implement correctly, it's all for naught. You are going to fail. That's why the equation uses multiples, because if you score a 0, the whole thing is a 0. Now, some of you guys may be saying, well, Antonio, fit is simple. People know it when they see it. And to that, I partially agree. I think once you understand fit, you really can't unsee it. All of a sudden, you'll have that knowledge. Hence why this detailed video is so important. That being said, there are certain items in a man's wardrobe that are very easy to nail the fit on. One of these essential items is your belt, especially if you grab an Anson belt and buckle, because you actually get a 52-inch strap, which you then cut and adjust to make sure it fits you perfectly. Now, yes, gentlemen, Anson is the sponsor of today's video, and for over a decade, I've been talking about this company because I love what they do. Anson is a family-owned, innovative company that is making the belt hole obsolete. If you haven't checked out their micro adjust system, with Anson belt's micro adjust system, you can adjust to 1/4 of an inch, and I love it how you never have those unsightly bends in the strap because the micro adjust system doesn't bend the strap and put pressure on a single point. And like I said, you never have to worry about sizing because their straps will fit your waist, whether you've got a 20-inch waist, whether you've got a 50-inch waist. So what's great about that is they make an excellent gift. And speaking of their straps, speaking of their buckles, what I love about them is the interchangeability. So their straps all work with their different buckles. That means that you can have 3 straps, you can have 2 buckles, and you can have 6 different belt combinations. And it's this interchangeability that endears Anson to me because I talk about the interchangeable wardrobe. It's all about owning less clothing and being able to get more miles out of it. And gents, if you're looking to get a deal, down in the description of today's video, I'm linking over to Anson Belt and Buckle with the best deal you're going to find on the web. When you use that link, you're going to be able to get their belt combination set. This is 6 possible belts, all for under $100. And if you want something higher end, check out their premier collection. They've got genuine crocodile and Italian calfskin. And if you conceal carry, you want a super durable belt, check out their Invincibelt collection. Innovative, interchangeable, and their customer service is top notch. I've talked about this before. We had one customer that actually cut his belt a little bit too small. It was his fault. He reached out to him, said, hey, I made a mistake. I need to buy another strap. Dave took care of him and sent him a strap free of charge. Why? Because that's the kind of company they are. They take care of their customers like their family. Now, what about discounts? How to be able to get a discount with Anson Belt and Buckle? So if you want to make sure you always get the best deal, go over to the website and join their email list and get on their text club. That's where people get the best discounts. Go check them out. Again, the link is in the description to get the best deal on the web. So the first part of the formula is awareness. Now, I've done entire videos on body type, and I'll link to that video down in the description of today's video, but you really need to look at yourself in a mirror and understand what type of body you have. Now, a small percentage of this is hereditary and bone structure, but the biggest part is going to be where do you carry your weight? For some of you guys, you're going to be large hipped. You're going to have small shoulders. You are going to have a round midsection. In this case, you're going to have a pear shape. Others are going to carry a little bit more of that weight up high. You're going to have that oval shape. Again, you're going to have that round stomach. You're going to look at yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, I can improve upon this. But here's the thing. You've got to dress for the body you have. And I've said this once, I'll say it again. Guys, it's better to be large large and in charge and to dress sharp than to be fat and sloppy. You want to put together an outfit, you want to find clothing that's going to complement the build you have right now. But let's be straight here. If you spend a lot of time in the gym, you've got a muscular body. Guess what? You guys know it's very difficult to find clothing off the rack that fits you. Seriously, almost everything you put on fits you like a tent. And jeans, good luck there. They're always too big in the waist and too small in the thighs. And skinny guys, whether you're tall or short, don't seem to have it much better. Now, I will say that there's a lot of brands, if you're willing to spend a little bit more, actually do work for thinner men. But a lot of guys that are skinny are on a tight budget. And they go to those box stores and they try on that clothing that's made to fit 100 different guys. And guess what? It is just way too baggy. The only guy that seems to have it decent is the guy with a regular body type. But even for him, he walks into a store and he can easily be overwhelmed by choice and all the bad selection. And by the way, with body type, it's an approximate. Most guys aren't going to fall exactly into one of these. You may be a mix of two. Don't worry about that. That's normal. Instead, what I want you to focus in on is getting your actual skin measurements. And although there are 60 measurements a tailor would take if he was going to measure you for a custom suit, there's only going to be 6 that I think every man should know. Those are chest, waist, and hips. Next up, neck, arm length, and inseam. Knowing those 6 measurements, you're going to stand a much better chance of finding clothing that actually fits your body. Now, bonus measurements that can save you a lot of time are to take your best fitted clothing, your best shirt, your best pair of jeans, and actually measure those. Because they're not going to be your skin measurements. And for most people, fit is very personal. I've said this before, but I had a pair of twins that were my clients when I owned a custom clothing. And funny enough that they would sometimes share clothing, but one of them, and despite the literally 2-pound difference, one of them did not like wearing the other one's clothing. Why? Because he felt it was too tight. And it wasn't the heavier twin, it was the skinnier twin. For some reason, he just liked the heavier one, his clothing to fit him a little bit closer. The other guy liked his clothing a little bit looser. Now, I will say that a lot of men wear their clothing too baggy and they're used to that, and so they prefer clothing like that. If you ever get the chance to work with a stylist, to have somebody objectively look at you in new clothing and say, you know what, the fit's a little bit closer, but I love it, man. You take care of your body, you should be showing it off, especially again if you're a thinner guy, if you're a fit guy. If you take care of your body, there's nothing wrong with wearing clothing that fits you a little bit closer. On the other hand, if you're that pear-shaped guy, if you're that round guy, maybe look for something to build up the shoulders. Why? Because it's just going to make you look a little bit stronger, more masculine. It's going to give a bit more shape in an area that most men, especially you, are going to want to build up. And don't forget, with awareness, this changes over time. Your body does. You're going to gain weight. You're going to lose weight. As you age, the different hormones in your body are having an effect on muscle and where it's actually placed on your body. So don't be afraid every few years to actually get updated measurements. Next up, let's talk about knowledge. So first up, let's talk about brands and the discrepancies in their sizing. There isn't a standard across the board that a medium in one brand is going to be the same as a medium in another. They use different models. Different shoe companies use different lasts, meaning basically a replica of a foot that they build the shoe around. And you're going to find from brand to brand, in fact, from year to year, sometimes some brands are so big that they use different models. And, one medium with Ralph Lauren one year is not going to necessarily be that medium. And this is confusing for people. And that's why knowing your own measurements is so important, and knowing maybe the measurements of your best fitted clothing, because when you're in a store, you know that you can simply take something off the rack, and before you even go try it on, you simply can measure it. You can look at, okay, what's the sleeve length? What's the neck size? You know the measurements of your best fitted shirt, so very quickly, within a matter of seconds, you can see if this thing actually would even fit you. And by the way, fabric tape measures you can grab for $1 at Walmart, Target, or any craft store. But seriously, this one tool can save you an hour in a store because you don't have to go try things on. You simply measure it before you even put it on your body. Now, when shopping online, this can become a little bit more complex. What I recommend is look for companies that actually list out the measurements of their clothing. If you look for it right in the description, oftentimes it is there. If not, if you're going to be taking a chance, then look at the company's return policy. Again, there's a lot of hidden fees nowadays. Companies are trying to save money, and I get it. I own a company. But yeah, when you're getting hit with a restock fee, you're having to pay money to actually ship it back, all of a sudden the attraction of shopping online starts to disappear. That being said, a workaround, especially at box stores, is to have it shipped to the store that's local in your area, and you can go in there and try it on and see if it's the right size. Another key aspect of knowledge is to understand what's going on with clothing trends. In 2023, 2024, we are seeing clothing becoming more and more loose, baggy even. So it seems like we're turning 20 years. Everything goes in cycles. What we saw in 2008, 2012 with really close fitted suits, we are now seeing the complete opposite, and I think that's going to continue for the next couple of years. This matters to you because when you go buy a suit from a larger company, all of a sudden you're going to find it's a looser fit in general. Now, not all companies ascribe to this. That's why I like a lot of classic brands that actually keep things relatively the same. Maybe they make minor adjustments, but where you're really going to see this is in fast fashion. You're also going to see it in items that are very much trending. So jeans will be susceptible to these sizing changes. T-shirts, Henleys, casual button-downs, polos, a lot of jackets, we are going to see them just become a little bit bigger. So be aware of this trend and make sure that you account for it. And that last point was a good segue into talking about individual items, from shoes to trousers to shirts to jackets. Each of these are going to have, in general, different ways that they fit, and a big part of that is the material that they're made from. Jeans, in general, are going to be made from cotton. Cotton is a clothing that's made to fit a little bit closer to the body. It also has a little bit of stretch, and it will return to its original shape whenever exposed to heat. Cotton is also a relatively inexpensive material, and I do find whenever you're out there buying an item made from cotton, let's use jeans as the example, you want to get as close to a perfect fit as possible. Now again, the perfect fit, it depends on the person, it depends on your style, and I've got entire infographics, which I will link to down in the description. But you're probably going to have less leeway in what you consider to be a great fit for jeans than you would in a jacket. And the reason being, jackets can be layered. Is this going to be a jacket that you wear actually as an outer piece? Is this going to be a jacket that's more like a sports jacket? Is this going to be a jacket you want to fit closer to the body, made from a lightweight material? Is it perhaps a sweater jacket? Sweater jackets made from a luxury material, oftentimes like wool, have a little bit of stretch to them and are made to fit closer to the body. Now, I will say there is an exception too. Sometimes you can have cotton that is woven versus cotton that is knitted. So knitted is what we're going to see in shirts. And this is where we're going to have the stretch, such as in a t-shirt, undershirt, polo, or Henley. Woven fabrics, this is what we're going to see in button-downs, in dress shirts. And these type of materials usually don't have as much stretch, but you could introduce maybe stretchy materials into the man-made fibers. But in general, with these items, you want to make sure that you get the right fit off the rack, or if you're going to go in any direction, you go a little bit larger. So why would you want to go larger? Because you have the knowledge, you know that most clothing can be adjusted. Now, you may be wondering, my grandfather, he didn't have to adjust anything. Well, that's probably because, most things were maybe made for him. Maybe he had custom shirts, custom suits, and going back even farther, most clothing 150 years ago was handmade. Most people didn't buy things off the rack. It was about 150 years ago that all of a sudden that started becoming more common, and we have what we have today, which is tons of mass-made, pre-made clothing. Most people 150 years ago only owned a few sets of clothing that somebody in their family had stitched for them. And I know some of you guys will argue, well, I would love to just have 3 sets of clothing and one's in the wash, one's up drying, and one I'm wearing. In any case, the situation that the majority of the men in this world find themselves in is that they've got lots of options for clothing, but most of it, especially if they like it, it's probably going to be a little bit large on them. Very few men are going to buy clothing that's too tight and try to pull that off now. We will gravitate maybe towards something that's a little bit larger. And that's why so many guys get used to loose clothing, because over time it has gotten looser and looser, and they're like, you know what, this is all I can find. It fits me somewhat. I'm okay with this. And that's a mistake. That's a failure of knowledge. The idea that, hey, clothing doesn't matter. Look at these 2 guys right here. Both of them are wearing suits, but one of these guys looks like he's being consumed by the suit, versus when he wears a suit that fits him, all of a sudden he looks amazing. The suit enhances his natural build. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You should know the name of your tailor. You should take your clothing to get adjusted. A good tailor can tell you what can be adjusted, what can't. In general, I would say you can bring things down 1 size. Jackets are relatively easy to adjust. Shirts can be darted and brought in. Even t-shirts and jeans can be adjusted. All that being said, you can actually save money by finding brands that actually work for your build. It takes a while. You have to look, you have to try different things on, but when you think about how your clothing speaks for you before you even say a word, guys, this is you. This is your messaging. This is your brand. And if you own a business, if you want to be successful, if you want people to see you a certain way, you need to take control of the message your clothing and the fit of it says about you. Now let's talk implementation. If information was power, librarians would rule the world. So I always love that quote, probably because I had a thing for librarians. But no, the second part of that quote is that it's information plus action that is true power. And I 100% agree with this. You see so many keyboard warriors out there. They got the knowledge, they actually have some awareness, but they aren't doing anything with implementation. They're scoring a big fat 0 there. And remember, the way the formula works, if you get a 0 on implementation, you fail. And by the way, I chose the word implementation on purpose because it's very close to imperfection. Gents, it's not about not making a mistake, about waiting for that perfect moment. No, imperfect implementation where you actually learn and you adjust is so much more powerful than waiting for the perfect moment. Now, gentlemen, let me know in the comments, what imperfect action are you going to take today to improve your style? So, what video to watch next? Well, gentlemen, I've got you covered with this video right here. Seriously, click on it. Boom, right there. You will magically go over to the next video, which is going to be freaking awesome. Yeah, seriously. Boom, click right there.